little bit east of. Oh, here we go.
Hi, Casey.
Hey, Dean, how you doing?
Good, thank you. Okay, Casey. So the hypothetical. This is episode 2 of season 5, or episode 102. And so some of the questions are different, very different than the last time you were here. Welcome back, by the way.
Thank you.
But the main hypothetical is the same, which is this. We've just started a 1-year and new engagement as a fractional CMO. New client, new work, new everything, right? Today's day 1. Tell the audience a little bit about you, and then talk about what a fractional CMO normally sees or does in the first 3 months of a brand new
Okay.
engagement.
All right. Thanks for having me back.
Sure.
Yeah, so I'm a lifelong entrepreneur. I've been a CEO, CMO several times, got into doing some fractional CMO work. I really enjoy business, all aspects of it. Was around before SaaS, during SaaS, AI, all these other things, done direct to consumer, B2B, things like that. So, it's interesting, the question, what does a first year engagement look like? I get this question a lot where, what does a CMO, a fractional CMO do? And
Right.
my response is the same thing a full-time CMO would do, just focusing on probably on more particular areas that the contract or the CEO wants. But you're not getting a lesser CMO because he's fractional. You're getting all those skills and things that you're hopefully interviewed for, and you've vetted with this guy. So the first 90 days and everything that I've done, communication. The first 90 days are going to be about executing on the plan that I spoke with the CEO, the executive team. They all know what they want, or they've been operating in a mode where they're not getting what they want, or they need change, or they need to grow, whatever. So the first 90 days is going to be, we're going to have a plan already that we've all agreed upon. First of all, I would have met with the executive team, definitely,
Right.
the sales leadership, right? Then I'm going to, all the kind of cookie cutter stuff, I hate to say it like that, but I'm going to look at existing, marketing plans. I'm going to obviously meet with the team, and then start looking at what's working, what's not. I'm not going to come in and make all these radical changes or anything like that. There's a term that always gets thrown around. Oh, I get this quite a bit. Just go for the low hanging fruit right away. And I always push back on that because, first of all, everything takes effort, right?
Yeah.
Nothing is easy and simple. And that may not be the most prudent thing to do, to go after something that seems to be easy. It may not be part of our plan, things like that. So for the first 90 days, I'm sticking to what we agreed upon. I want to get in, I want to meet the folks. The first 30 days, I'm going to look at the channels, what's in place, what are the results. And by the 90th day, I already want to have in place, I want to look at how the lead flow is coming in. I want to look at how forms, or however they're getting their leads. I want to make sure that process is clean, because no matter what I do, the remainder of the year, if there's hiccups there, then it's all for nothing. If I drive more traffic to a broken system, then it's all for nothing. So there you go.
Fair enough. Smart. Hey, Paul. So hello. Welcome
Hey
to the
there.
podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, Paul, same scenario. It's day 1 of a year-long engagement with a brand new client. Tell the audience a little bit about you, and then talk about what a fractional CMO normally sees or looks for or thinks about in those first 3 months.
So I'm Paul Balsom. I started Balsom & Co. recently, and it's primarily a fractional CMO business, but I've been doing marketing kind of on the corporate side and running a business, for the last 17 years. So for the past decade or so, I have been running a business in the water and sewer space. So pretty niche, and something a lot of people don't think about, but I really fell in love with the space, and to see all the opportunity, and just love working in the space and with the people. So that is where I've focused my attention and my business currently, is in the water and environmental space. Love working with my clients in that space. Love the kind of mission, as well as all the opportunity in terms of modernizing the marketing engines that a lot of these companies are currently using. So if I'm just coming into a year-long engagement with a new client, one of the things I've been kicking around in my head recently is, how can I have a competitive advantage as a fractional be my speed to implementation, my speed to onboarding? Because I work with several clients at a time, whereas a full-time person, in our careers, we don't get the opportunity to onboard too often. So usually it takes a lot of time. The first week or two is getting my computer and getting my tech stuff working, meeting with people in various departments, and really slowly onboarding to feel like, okay, I got my feet under me, and now we can move. Um, but the onboarding process in my business is something that I've really worked on, and getting that kind of initial speed to implementation is really important to me and obviously to my clients. In terms of the first year and what do I do in the first 90 days, we kind of have to come in with an idea, like Casey said, of what's kind of our goal, what's the reason to be here. We all need that, fractional or not. And then I kind of look at the existing marketing ecosystem in my client's business, in a kind of engineering sense. I look at the foundation and then kind of build up from there. So, is the website functioning properly? Is all the technical SEO stuff in place, et cetera, before I'm going to go up into the more kind of tactical, niche parts of the organization?
Hmm. So, Paul, imagine that I'm the CEO at the client site. Okay. What should I be seeing or typically doing or stop doing once a fractional CMO comes on board? Like
It's
for
a
the
great
first 3 months, what's my experience?
It's a great question. Before we even kind of start our engagement,
Hmm.
the most important thing to me is that we both understand why I'm there and we understand how I work. And hopefully, as the CEO, the reason I'm coming in is you need something off your plate, right? In many senses, you've been the de facto CMO, and now you're resource constrained. And so it's my job to come on and take that off your plate, while keeping you informed, right? So establishing the KPIs in that kind of scenario and establishing a baseline very early and keeping up that reporting cadence is always really important to me. And it's been something that's been really valuable to my clients in the initial stages of our engagement.
All right. And Casey, what do you think? What is the CEO, or let's put it this way, right? Um, how does the CEO or a company that hires a fractional CMO, how do they tend to like waste that money, or how do they mute the strengths of that fractional CMO, generally speaking?
Yeah, that is a great question, man, because there's different ways you can go, and Paul nailed a couple of them. First of all, if I'm bringing on a CMO, that's an expense, right? So I'm going to look at that and say, how can I get my ROI on that? I know one thing for sure: if I step in between him and his job, I'm not going to get my ROI. People are still going to come to me, and I don't want that. As Paul said, I'm going to get the KPIs in place, and I'm going to get simple KPIs too. The ones that, as the CEO, yeah, they're going to be very specific on what's going to show the performance of this guy and what I want done. So I'm not going to get in his way. I am going to communicate with him on a regular basis. I'm going to make sure that the milestones that we agreed upon, that we're going to meet and talk. And I'm also going to meet with my executive team too and say, what do we think about so and so? This is what he was brought in for, because we're all on the same page on what we're trying to accomplish. We brought in a CMO, a fractional CMO, because we either, whatever that is, increase leads, change our brand voice, it's whatever that is, right? And to see if we want to hire a full-time one as well. Is this worth it?
Yeah.
Test drive it a little bit. So it's really about, as a CEO, making sure I'm out of the way, but I'm communicating with them. And I got to tell you, when I invest like that as a CMO or a CEO, but as a CMO, I want to see my ROI, right? This is costing me some money. I'm investing it. So I want to make sure I don't get in the way. And also, I let my team know too, don't come to me for this anymore. We have a guy in place. Let's go. Let's use him. Let's help him be successful. So.
Right. All right. So then, speaking of the team, right? If I'm still the CEO, I'm looking at the team I have now. It might be very small. It might be relatively big. There's junior and mid-level folks in there. There's probably been like supervision of that group, maybe even management of that group. This is likely the first time there's ever been like C-level leadership for marketing, right? How, Casey, how's that team going to look or be any different or ideally better at the end of 12 months compared to day one?
Yeah, I've experienced that firsthand, and it can be a very touchy situation because often you have a homegrown marketing team, maybe
Mhm.
if this is the first time, right? And you have folks that are doing really well, and maybe others that aren't, because there might be a chance that you're going to have to get rid of some folks or suggest because you can't get to where you want to go because the talent pool maybe not be as mature or not willing to, right? Some people aren't willing to change. They go, oh, I don't want to deal with this. This doesn't make sense, anything like that. But where I was in a situation where there was a group in place and there was a big event coming up as well, I made sure to stand back and not get involved to disrupt this huge event for the year because it was very important to the company and to the marketing team. So I managed it peripherally while I did other things, but I met with them on obviously a daily, weekly basis, and I got to work with them. They saw at the end of that, it was about 60 days when the event was done. We had a really great meeting, and they appreciated it. Say, hey, thank you so much for coming in here and not torpedoing this because this is a big part of what we do this year. You allowed us to work it, you contributed to it, but you really gave us the room that we needed to do that. So what they're going to learn from it also, besides that lesson, I didn't come in as a fractional CMO and just start dictating what to do. I saw what was
Right.
going on, what was important, and of course, I'm checking with the CEO as well. We all agreed that was the best way to go, and then I get to see them in action too. Right, this is an important event for them, the event for the year. A lot of money's being invested. I get to watch how they're handling that, how the rollout was, how did they collect the leads and follow up after that. So when you have a team like that, to me, it's a slow roll in, speak with folks, share with what you want to do, what my purpose here is. And like I tell people, I'm very transparent. I'm here to help them be successful. We're all on a mission, and share with them what we want to do, not just kind of spoon feed them information because you'll kill everything then, right? Everybody has to be on the same page.
So, Paul, let's sort of invert that scenario a bit, right? So it's the end of 12 months after a fractional CMO or you was brought on. Okay. I'm one of those staffers that managed to, stick around for the entire 12 months, regardless of all the changes, right? I'm sort of surveying my coworkers and the team that I'm on and our place in the company. Like, what's different compared to day one?
It's a good question. In my experience, what I love to be able to point to at the end of a time like that is say, here are the things that we did. And I like to start every quarter with my teams and be able to brainstorm with them and focus down to three main objectives. And that can be across the entire marketing team and across our entire organization.
Mhm.
Let's focus on three outcomes. And then how can we use everybody over the next quarter to arrive at those outcomes? And so hopefully everyone at the end of a quarter and then subsequently at the end of a year can point to several things and go, here's what I did directly to contribute to this outcome. And ultimately that's something they can put on their resume, right? So at the very end of a time with me, my hope would be that you have some things to speak to that have really improved your career and improved the performance of the team. And that's often what a fractional CMO brings to an organization that already has marketing resources is direction and getting everybody pointed in the same direction to be surgical.
All right. I think that's excellent. I think that's a good answer. I'm going to give you a very tough question now.
Okay.
Okay. So, I won't even say most, what do many clients just not understand about marketing?
I think marketing is a space where everybody feels like they're an expert because they feel like they've been marketed to, so they have
Mhm.
opinions about it. And I know that's not a fresh hot take or anything, but I think that it's similar in a sales environment, right?
Mhm.
I've never coded a piece of software, so I can't begin to speak to that, and therefore I'm out of that conversation. But a lot of people feel like marketing and sales primarily is a space where everybody kind of has an opinion. Um, I like to bring simplicity to marketing. Um, I like to start at the foundation and get deeper and more tricky and tactical as the needs arise. And I think pretty much everyone I talk to can resonate with that, because we don't want to be doing run before crawl and walk. And so everybody can usually wrap their minds around that. And so, start with the simplest answer first, and execute it well, and then, kind of move down the pipe.
And Casey, what do most clients just not understand about marketing?
If a lot of Paul nailed everything. That was good explanation there, Paul. What they don't get, you get some folks that want to move quickly, right? They don't want to invest the time. And part of like what Paul was referring to, you got to have your foundation in
Right.
place. If you don't know, the value you're bringing, and the value proposition becomes a cliche because everyone throws it around, but it's true. If you don't know that in one line, what you do, if your messaging isn't around that, then you're going to have problems. And a lot of folks, when you meet with them, everybody has an idea, right? Everybody wants to go in all these different directions. Why isn't SEO working? Is paid search still good? How can we use AI? And they're going in all these different directions. The first thing is like, do we have our foundation in place? Kind of like how we started the conversation today, is that if you don't have an understanding of the value you bring to the market and what you do, and your marketing doesn't support that, and it is very simple. I mean, it's difficult to do because it takes a lot of discipline, right? But it is simple. If everybody's on the same page and understands the value we bring, our brand value, and works towards it, the marketing will all support that. It's when people have different ideas of what the value they bring, so they start these different marketing campaigns in different directions, different content, and you end up with the mess. And that's typically when you see a fractional CMO come in, as they want you to come in and say, we need to be organized here. We are going in so many different directions. And they understand the cost of that too. It's very expensive to do that. Even if your sales are growing, you can be much more efficient. So what I try to do is like have everybody just cool their jets a little bit, and let's just focus on the value we bring, what our value prop is, what our current messaging is. This is who we are. This is the personas we're going after. These are the pain points we're going to address. And we're going to be very methodical how we do it. So.
All right, so let's change the question a tiny bit. Same question, basically, but instead of what do many clients not understand, what do many new fractional CMOs not understand?
Is that to me?
Yeah.
I would say one of the biggest challenges that I've had to overcome is that I don't want to say understand, but just be cautious going into a new situation where you don't have the resources available. That they want you to do everything. They want you to run HubSpot. They want you to write content. They want you to do SEO, all these things. I think a CMO, and I don't know if I'm answering your question this way, but what I learned was that it's a different engagement. They want you to do all these things. And a lot of times when somebody reaches out, I go, you literally have no marketing department, and you don't have it in the future to hire anybody either. So I think a lot of CMOs, fractional CMOs, don't get or don't understand. Like, be cautious when you're going into a situation that there is a support. And also really big for me, I always ask, do you have budget?
Yeah.
And what is that budget? It doesn't have to be a lot, but it has to be something. And then I want to be able to scale it as we show results. I always I look for each quarter I want to do and grow. And if we're not growing, then we'll go back and look. I'm not just going to wildly spend money, but
yeah, you don't want to find out that the spend they allocated for you is the marketing budget.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
it, right?
Yes.
Okay, Paul. So let's take like a tiny different twist on that. Imagine you've been invited to have coffee with half a dozen people, so that you can talk about your experience, in the business of being a fractional CMO. Everyone else, the other 6 people, they're all brand new to the life of being a fractional CMO. Like, what do you already know they don't understand about what their day or their life or their work is going to be like, or their business is going to be like, starting out as a fractional CMO?
Sure, that's a great question. Something that I've found to be extremely important is to have a niche. I explained my niche earlier, but it's in the water and environmental space. It's a extremely special corner of the world, and I have a value proposition I can go to prospective clients with and say, this is what I do. I've done it. Here are all the folks I've worked with. And here is what I'm going to do if I come into your organization. And the very important thing to me is that the client has already understood how I like to work before I come in, so there's no surprises. I explained that it takes a long time to do some of these things. Don't expect, 30 days we're going to be at the top of the Google search engine result page,
Right.
because that just isn't how it works. I can explain some of the incredible statistics, and vanity metrics and things like that that I've experienced with my business or my clients in the past, and then I have to explain, well, that took 5 years, or that took this amount of time, and it's very important that we work methodically and we work toward our goals, and that some might come faster than others, but that's a thing that you have to put yourself out there as a fractional CMO and risk a prospect going
Mhm.
cold if you properly align and explain how your process is going to work before you start an engagement. So if I can distill that down, it would be, don't be too hungry to take on a client
Right.
where the expectations are misaligned.
Yeah, you're not leaving money on the table by niching down or differentiating. Yeah. I work with a lot of, because I'm like very highly differentiated and specialized. Virtually all of my work comes via fractional CMOs, right? And so they're not the client; their client is the client. But the fractional CMOs, like any one person or very tiny company, differentiation is cheap, but it's also difficult and absolutely worth it. And I talk to marketers over and over, and not a week goes by I don't talk to some marketer about helping them, market themselves. And the exact same advice they would give in the first 5 minutes to any of their clients, right? You need to specialize, you need to have a niche, you need to have a message that's easy to convey. We need to get you into a box of one, a category of one that someone's going to care about. I say that to them, and that's like, I don't want to limit myself, Dean. So it's the same advice you give your clients. Right? It's true because it's true. It's not true because somebody made it up for our marketing textbook.
It's very
Okay.
scary to do, though. So I
Oh
also
yeah.
completely understand at the same
Yeah.
time.
Okay. So, Paul, because the way that guests are allocated or self-allocated on this podcast is that everyone picks their own time slot, which means you never know who you're going to end up with, right? And so the guest list isn't curated or deliberately paired. Part of the fun of the podcast is you get people like Casey, and then you get someone like you who has like such a niche specialty that I doubt I could even find another fractional CMO that I could have paired you up with anyway. So it's glad that it works this way. So this is basically like being like dropped into an elevator, right? Or put into an elevator with like someone else in kind of the same field as you. I'm going to let you ask Casey kind of any question you want, and then Casey's going to ask you one.
All right, Casey. This just came to me, but
I have suggestions, or I
okay.
can tell you what other people have asked.
Go for it, Paul.
Well, some people have asked
After
about
I
dealing
fire
with
this off.
clients.
Casey, what have you brought
Sure.
to a client in the past beyond marketing in terms of value?
That's a good one.
Yeah, I would say mentorship, true mentorship to the whole organization, actually. When I don't be, probably because I've been a CEO in the past. When I'm doing marketing, I'm very close to sales. I actually look at the whole organization. I'm not involved. I don't go out and get involved, but I bring mentorship. I really try to help folks, even if they're in another department, just by through either osmosis or whatever. But and I found that that's been well received. They like that someone's come on who is doing what they said they were going to do, but also has an overall positive impact on the organization. Which sometimes you can be in a toxic environment too, right? I mean, so they appreciate somebody coming in who's taking the high road and trying to help other folks or explaining what we're doing. So I would say mentorship. I could throw out some marketing things, but I'm gonna stick with mentorship.
And Casey, what questions do you typically ask someone when you realize they're another fractional CMO or just becoming a fractional CMO?
I always like to ask, what was the biggest? Um, I want to hear a little bit of a nightmare. What was the biggest nightmare
We're
you
going to
had?
dig into Paul's nightmare. Okay, that's fine.
Like what's something that you didn't expect? I have one I want to share too, because I think it's very relevant after Paul. Go ahead, Paul. Sorry.
I would say, okay, biggest nightmare in terms of my business has been a situation where I don't do what I described earlier and um, really share with the prospect what life is like working with me, what I do, kind of where the guardrails are in terms of how we're going to get the biggest impact. And then I come in and they're like, all right, do everything. Um, and you're our budget and we need ROI right now. Let's go. And, there's like an initial panic that sets in. And, that's why now I spend probably more time than I ought to prior to coming on with a client, really helping them understand what life is going to be like, how I'm going to do things, and that we align on our goals.
Yeah, that what you said earlier about, or Dean may have said about it's okay to leave money on the table sometimes if it's gonna, it's
Yeah.
not really there. I wanted to share something really quick, Dean, just on
Yeah, sure.
what Paul said. One of the biggest challenges I had one time was that I was coming into a group. They had a marketing team and they had a VP on as well, and it became just very adversarial. I mean, we were going at it, and I do not participate in that. I back up and say, look, I'm not going to go at it with you. This is the reason I was brought in. I want to help you be successful. Let's work together. That time, try to take the road. But then it turns out that you find out that person was never really going to stay anyway. But that was not
Okay.
communicated to you, that they were going to be an asset. Oh, you're going to come in and work with this person, that type of thing, right? And then that person ends up leaving. So then now it's kind of changed the whole situation. In some cases, it can be good, right? It's okay, because the team will come to you and say, there was an issue, but we want to help you. Let's all work together, type of thing. But it does change because you're going in with a different expectation, that you have a person who has either brought them to this point or understands everything, where all the bodies are buried, so to speak, things like that. And now this person is gone. So you kind of got to retool. The objective is still the same, where you're trying to get to, but in some cases, it actually may work to your advantage if you can recover with the existing team. But that can be challenging.
Mhm. So, Casey, these days, who should be reaching out to you and how should they connect with you?
LinkedIn is probably the best way, but I got to tell you, there's just so much coming through LinkedIn these days. It's just like,
Yeah.
I'm going to say this on video because they deserve to get spanked, man. TurboTax. Somebody from TurboTax sent me a message saying that I qualify to be a TurboTax reseller. Where the hell did that come from? It's just like, come on, guys, be marketers out there. It's just ridiculous. But reach out to me through LinkedIn, please. I really enjoy marketing. I enjoy being a CMO, a fractional CMO. And also just general consulting. I really enjoy business. I have a lot of good experiences, different markets, things like that. And it's interesting you're talking about water, environmental water, Paul. I grew up in the farming community, which there's a ton of water. It might be a little bit different area, but water runoff, pesticides, all those other things
Yep.
I've brushed up against several times. So that was made my ears perk up. So
And Paul, how about you? Who should reach out to you these days and how do you want them to get to you?
Go to balsam.co. That's
Okay.
my primary space.
Mhm.
Otherwise, reach out to me on LinkedIn, and you can email me through my website. Find my LinkedIn on the site as well, or you can go ahead and schedule a time for us to talk.
All right. Sounds good. Guys, thank you both so much for being here today. I really appreciate it. And I learned a lot, I thought. So very informative.
Thank you, Dean.
Thanks, Dean.
And thanks for watching.